abbiamo condiviso l'idea di un'Europa molto diversa da quella di oggi.
Dire Black Lives Matter significa non rimandare più la riforma della cittadinanza.
My name is Madeline Baines. I'm an American, but I moved to Italy in 2014 when I was only 11 years old. I never knew or understood what racism really was until moving to Italy. I remember in 6th grade going to a friend's house and seeing pictures of Mussolini everywhere, and thinking to myself, like, wait, people still like this guy? As I got older, and especially when I started high school, I saw just how terrible racism was in Italy. For one, I never saw a black person in a job position, but I would see them at my bus stop or walking around town, and I always thought to myself, I wonder if they are even given a chance to get a job, or if they are discriminated against from the beginning. I watched my religion teacher say how we should never date a black person because our parents wouldn't approve and they would get mad. I watched my history teacher tell my friend of Middle Eastern ethnicity to not wear black to school because that makes him look like he is a part of ISIS. But what is the root of this problem? Italian society has ignored racial discrimination in its own country ever since Italy colonized northeastern Africa in the late 19th century. Racist governmental practices, such as ignoring racist attacks in the judicial system and eliminating governmental roles working towards eliminating discrimination, have led to a society that condones widespread racism, evidenced by economic and cultural discrimination, as well as violent attacks on minorities. The Italian media, rather than highlighting these issues, has largely ignored racism, passively promoting the myth that racism in Italy doesn't exist, and thereby rendering meaningful change difficult. All of these factors led me to come up with my project, Cambiamo l'Italia, Racism and Social Change in Italy. What's also very interesting about racism in Italy is the fact that last summer, when Black Lives Matter protests started in the United States, they started to happen in Italy too. After the BLM protests started to happen in Italy, I wondered, why are Italians protesting racism in America when they have never had a problem with racism in their own country? An article in ID written by author Bellamy says one possible reason for this occurrence could be how the Italian media heavily covered the story of George Floyd and the BLM protest happening in the United States, but then usually failed to cover racist acts that actually happen in Italy. This lack of coverage can mean ignorance when it comes to racism in Italy. Even if the majority of Italians are not explicitly racist, they are not anti-racist either, which of course leads to a lack of activism regarding the subject. The Washington Journal even quotes Luca Palladini, an activist associated with an anti-discrimination group, I Centinelli di Milano, saying, quote, "We need a much deeper debate on these issues of racism in Italy. As a society, our cultural limitations on these matters are evident right now. Without activism, media coverage, nothing will change. People need to force change, which is slowly starting to happen, but obviously needs to continue to happen on a higher scale." Saying an issue needs to be fixed and that change needs to occur is easy to say, but how does change come about? I think the most realistic solution that I have heard has been by Professor Gaia Giuliani. Here are some of her thoughts.
Prima di tutto, per avere un cambiamento, bisogna che il problema sia visibile a tutti.
First of all, to have the change, the problem must be visible to everyone. Institutions don't change by themselves. Institutions change because there are movements that make them change.
Che
Therefore, we need more activism, stronger alliances, decisive fronts, and certainly continue on the road, which is a long road that brings together Italians of color with immigrants.
Sicuramente continuare sulla strada, che è una strada abbastanza nuova, che mette insieme italiani di colore.
That is, some people say we need to enter the mainstream media, from television to online and offline journals, and try to take that space. Other people say let it be that space that is impenetrable, and we create new spaces, so new independent newspapers, new television channels, multiply on digital, and build programs that make these movements pass. I repeat, we have planned that we will do in the government to block immigration, therefore to block Islamic terrorism. All of this goes to say that we have a very different idea of what Europe will look like compared to what it looks like today.
All of this means that it needs to come from the people. It comes from a newspaper covering the stories of people of color in Italy. It comes from documentaries, podcasts, articles, books, research, but it also comes from you, the people. As Elie Wiesel said, there may be times when we are powerless to prevent injustice, but there must never be a time when we fail to protest. Thank you for listening to my podcast. I hope I revealed a part of Italy seldom talked about. I would like to thank Mr. Halp, Mrs. Barden, Mrs. Alley, Mr. Payne, Vaughn, Starr, and all my fellow GSDers for your help and support. I would like to also thank all of the people I interviewed: Hannah Efron, Michela Santiccioli, and Gaia Giuliani. This was my Global Scholars Diploma project, Cambiamo l'Italia, Racism and Social Change in Italy.
Pacifici e sottolineo pacifici davanti alla Casa Bianca.